Time for today's community comment. Here is your host, Kevin Haugen.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon, and welcome into Community Comment. We got several guests today on our program and to talk about an upcoming event, the Horicon Marsh Archaeological Festival. Just a few, not too long away here, coming up here this month, October 13th and 14th. But I want to welcome into our studio today Julie Fleming, who is the organizer of this event. She also brought along a couple of guests with her today. We also have in studio Glenn Gorsuch and Jerry Disterhaft, who are part of the Voyageur canoes. They've been guests on our program before, and they do this exciting canoe-type trip, taking people back of what it was like to sort of canoe and what it was like to travel on the lakes and rivers in Wisconsin in the past. She also brought along today Bob Kruger, who is in charge of the artifacts here at the Horicon Marsh Archaeological Festival. Thank you guys so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having us.
So before we get into a lot of the stuff, you brought in a lot of stuff, first of all. A lot of the guests you brought in, they brought in a lot of the artifacts. So the plan originally was to kind of try to do this live. We weren't able to do that, a video stream live. But so essentially we are videotaping this segment of the program that people can maybe go back later, hopefully today or tomorrow at some point, and kind of watch all the exciting things that you guys brought in and get a little taste of what they can see firsthand at the events coming up here and not too far away. But Julie, if you could, just let our listeners know what the Horicon Marsh Archaeological Festival is.
Okay, the Horicon Marsh Archaeological Festival is actually sponsored by the Rock River Archaeological Society, and that is the society that meets over at the Horicon Marsh. We meet there in the winter. We meet once a month, and sometimes we have an activity in the summer. But this is our really big weekend. This is the 13th and 14th, so we're talking about this upcoming Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I just want to tell the people that when you hear about all the things that are going to be going on, don't worry if the weather is a little bit cool, because we have a huge education nature center over there. So lots of things will be happening in the Nature Center. There will be 2 teepees up on the hill, and if it's cold, those people might be sitting in their teepee, but that's all right. And if it's not raining, no matter how cold it is or cool, dress warm, because the Voyageur canoe will probably still be on the water. So this is a weekend where we zero in on archaeological things. And I had somebody say to me, well, do you actually do a dig? Well, no, we're not doing a dig over there. This is not the kind of, you've heard about the digs where people go and they can do it and they can witness it and everything. But this is where we just sort of celebrate all sorts of things. We have the Buck Skinner encampment up there with Dirty Kettle and his friends, and we have a lady who is selling wild rice, and we have tomahawk throwing, and then we have an Atlatl demonstration where you can test your skill at hitting it with an Atlatl, if you know what that is.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
Okay. Way back when early man was trying to hunt the mastodons on the prairie or wherever, they were using what they called an Atlatl. And the Atlatl is a tool that will launch the spear. So you have the spear, and it's in your long stick Atlatl, and then you launch it at the beast. And believe it or not, by the time it hits your target, it can be doing between 75 and 90 miles an hour. And the guys here at the Horicon Marsh, they go ahead and they show young and old how to launch with the Atlatl. And I have to tell you this, that my grandson was probably about 12 years old when I took him to one of these events. I wasn't planning the event at that time. We just went over. And he went over there, and they taught him how to launch with the Atlatl, and he is still talking about it, and he's a junior in high school.
So it's like a projectile-type device.
Yes.
That they use, an early form of a gun, I guess you can almost say.
Yeah.
Right. It was before archery was around.
Okay.
So way back.
So almost the originator of it's kind of neat to think that they sort of had these ways of coming up way back when to make these devices that nowadays, I mean, that just the ingenuity that they had back then was just incredible to see.
It multiplies the force of throwing that just with your hand and your arm. It multiplies the force of that so that it could pierce the skin on the animals.
Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, the Atlatl is still popular today because there are Atlatl teams that form and then they compete in certain places all over the world. And one of the places that has a team is the University of Vermont. And they will take their Atlatl team and they, go ahead and see who's the best.
Right. So it sounds like there's a lot of fun and unique opportunities for visitors to have at the at this event.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, is this how long has this been going on for? Is this something that's been on around a while, or is this relatively new?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's around 88, 89 it was formed by Bill Volker, I guess.
So
he was the founding father.
Yeah.
Coming up on 30 years almost.
About 30 years, yeah.
Have you been kind of involved, Bob or Julie, kind of since it originated, or it sort of came in later on?
A little bit later on, yeah.
Later on.
Yeah.
Just sort of in the last couple of years, how has the event sort of formed and changed in your eyes?
It got bigger and better.
Has
I've been doing it for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Julie's our head commander.
And go ahead.
She's really good at it.
Good.
Very organized. You got to have an organization to make it functional.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The other thing I want to tell the public is that we have excellent food at this event.
Yeah, that's always important.
We have a chef, Chef Anthony Madison, who is coming from Milwaukee. He makes everything from scratch. He's going to have people's favorites, the hot dogs, the brats, the chickens, wings, the everything. But he also makes totally from scratch a wild rice soup. And it is marvelous, just marvelous. So he will be there, and because it's going to be a little cool, he'll be down below in the center. There's 2 levels of the education center, and he will be down below near the small kitchen there and selling all day, Saturday, all day Sunday.
Awesome. Fantastic. Anything else that we need to know about this event?
Kids. Yeah. You need to bring children to this because there are some things for the children. For instance, when they come in and they register, they can pick up a bag, and the bag's already got some beads in it. And as they go around and they look at the various things that are happening there at the event, they can collect a bead. And when they're done, they have enough beads to make themselves a small necklace or a little bracelet. And then we also have a lady there who's going with a leather press, and she's going to be asking them, what would you like yours to look like? They can press the leather, make a necklace to take home with them. And we have a lady who's going to be there with a very early time Native American drill, and they will be able to drill a hole through a shell and then make a necklace out of the shell.
Right.
So there's a lot of things for kids and adults. And at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, there will be Buzz Vanderhooy, and he's going to be doing a program on trapping on the Horicon Marsh. And on Sunday at 2 o'clock, he'll be there doing a program on animals of Wisconsin.
Awesome. Exciting. You mentioned food for purchase.
Yep.
Does it cost anything to get into this event, or is it
No.
a free admission?
It's free admission. It costs you $2 to make the shell necklace. Okay, that's one
Yep.
of our vendors.
Yep.
And basically everything else is free.
Great. Excited. I see Bob is getting all his
drills.
so Bob bought in a box full of artifacts, and we will get to those in a little bit. But I'm looking here at the calendar of events here coming up. The Horicon Marsh Archaeological Festival. That's October 13th and 14th on Saturday from 11 to 4 p.m. and then on Sunday from 11 to 3 p.m. Visitors can partake in the Voyager canoes, and I want to bring into the conversation Glenn Gorsuch and Jerry Disterhalf, who are the Voyager canoes. They are the ones in charge of this event. But whoever wants to jump in on this question, if you could just let our listeners know what the Voyager canoe is.
The canoe ride is a no-cost event, but it's not free. You do have to paddle.
Okay.
There is some work
So
involved.
sweat
with
equity
it.
involved in partaking.
It'll keep you warm.
Okay.
It'll keep you warm. We've been part of the festival for a few years, usually up on top of the hill with the other encampment. But we're really excited about this year going down and being on the water on the marsh. So that's new water for us.
Great, exciting. So if you could just sort of go back and sort of talk about how this your program got started and why you felt it was important to highlight what it was like to experience traveling on these waterways back hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Well, myself, I grew up on the Fox River. My grandparents had a fishing resort where it comes out of Lake Puckaway. So I've always been on the water and enjoyed the river. And the history of the river is just so vibrant. There's so much of it in the area. And growing up in the Princeton area, there were a lot of businesses there with clamming and things like that. They'd take the clam shells over to Berlin and they'd make buttons. And just the riverboat travel is amazing that those big boats used to travel on the Fox. So that was my part. It was always been kind of a part of me, the history and that type of thing.
Yeah, and with me, three of my grandparents' families lived on the Fox River. In fact, I live on one of the homesteads since 1870. So I was always, well, from the day I can remember, I was on the river. My grandfather was into hunting, fishing, trapping. In fact, my son is the sixth generation on the same family trap line, which is very rare. I'm almost willing to challenge the whole state to find another family that has that longevity anyway. But more so than that, my family was involved in farming, and they always had a deep respect for the environment, the wildlife that was there, and we, again, try and manage it so we wouldn't have a negative impact on anything. So that was really important. I learned that, so I still pretty much project that today and try and educate as many people as possible on how we can preserve our environment.
Right. Mm-hmm. You mentioned people who hop on the canoes and take on a ride. They get the full experience. They get to paddle, but they also get you two guys in full garb, and you guys have come today wearing period pieces, I guess, of what it was like for people who were Voyager canoes back in the time. I know people listening now won't be able to see it, but they can come back. We got the video camera recording, so they can kind of come back when the video is posted and take a look. But if you could sort of describe the pieces that you're wearing and kind of how those originated, and just talk about what you guys are wearing today.
We're portraying French Voyageurs. So a sash that we have, it's about 12 feet long, goes around our waist twice and ties off on one side. It hangs down to about our knees. Not only does it look good, but it's like a weightlifting belt. A lot of lifting we would do on the portages, on the portages. So that would help us from getting hernias. It was like a weightlifting belt. We have a similar kind of thing on our knees that would keep our knees from popping out or injuring ourselves that way. And then we would paddle 40, 50 paddles per minute. About every 2 hours, we would take a pause or a pipe. So we carry our pipe and tobacco in a little pouch around our neck. Okay. And as we married into the native tribes and took on some of their spiritual beliefs, that became a medicine bag for us as well.
And I have various jewelry on. Some of this is, and it's all real. Like I have a grizzly bear claw display and eagle feathers carved out of bone, eagle again, and then actually buffalo teeth that I have with beads along with that, and was very important. Basically it was a meaning of good luck and again respecting the wildlife that we had to take.
And now, how did you guys sort of go about kind of forming the articles that you're wearing? Did you have to do any research on, or how did you make the clothing that you guys are wearing, or did you be able to purchase it from a retailer? How did that work?
The pants that I'm wearing are a deer hide that I made actually this spring, and then moccasins. I'm wearing more of an eastern pucker toe. The Ojibwa would have more of a gathered type pucker toe. This one's kind of a finger jointed pucker toe. I made those earlier. about due for a new pair by the smell of it here.
Especially with all this.
Those are not washers friendly at all.
Now they've been wet a lot
okay.
this year, and they're getting kind of fermenting there a little bit. A lot of we research it, and we have other people that make our shirts for us and things that try and keep it as authentic as we can be.
Awesome, fantastic, and.
And part of it, besides the clothing and all, I bring along my furs. Basically, the main reason why Europeans came here was for the fur trade. One of the most important animals that was in the fur trade here in Wisconsin was the beaver. Beaver pretty much was the single fur that was, they established what the currency would be by how many beaver you would have. The next animal that was also sought after because of its fur was the river otter.
Sure, hold her eye. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, go high with it.
Yes, we can get that on the video.
Yeah,
there
go
we
high.
go.
There you go.
This was probably as big as the river otter would be getting.
Okay.
And it's wonderful to see them out in the wild because they're almost like clowns out there. They do a performance, and it's just great to actually see that. And
do you guys come across that a lot to this day? A lot of the wildlife that you're mentioning on the
where I live, it's right on where the White River, the Puckian River, and the Fox all come together, just northeast out of Princeton. And there I have the luxury of having a mini paradise there. I see these animals in their daily lives, and not only throughout the warm months, but during the wintertime too. I'll take walks across the snow and ice, and I'll see areas where the otter will run, and then they'll jump on the snow and then slide across it. It's really incredible, and just to actually see this on a daily basis is phenomenal.
Earlier in the summer, we had a deer swim across the river in front of us, and that was a sight. We don't see that all the time. The water was pretty high, the current was pretty strong, and he really made nicely way across the river.
They are fast swimmers. What's really kind of neat, once in a while we get some groups that will hire us on, and we'll do a cookout at the end of the trip. But then also sometimes even camp out multiple days. And then not only do we see sights, but we hear the night sounds, which are really incredible. The various types of owls that are in the area. Again, coyotes will hear quite a bit. And then, oddly enough, at different times of the year, we'll hear other sounds. And it's fun to find out who can figure out what animal was really saying that particular sound.
Beyond the wildlife, too, it's the plant life that we see. There's a flower, it likes the wet and shaded soil, and it's called a cardinal flower. And we don't see it every year. It'll come up, and we think it gets washed out with the spring water, and it'll pop up in a different area. And it's a red, very red flower. It's named after the Catholic cardinals. Their robes are red. And we don't see it every year, and it likes that shady, wet soil. So it's kind of one of my favorites anyway, because we don't see it in the same place every year. But there's a lot of other plants as well. So it's even more than just wildlife. It's just being outdoors.
Yeah, it's the whole environment. Again, it's part of what we're doing. It's teaching about the history that people, the correct, real history. What we read in books, I know when I was going through high school, my gosh, it's not even close to being really true. So it's doing the research, finding the real truth, and then teaching that. And people, not only youth, but adults are really impressed with what really happened. And we're here in Wisconsin, we're gifted because a lot of that history happened right here.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to mention that this past summer I took my family up to Princeton. We got on the Voyager canoe, and we went, first we went down the river, and we saw the town of Princeton from the river. turned around, and then went down the Fox River all the way to the White.
Yes.
All right. We saw eagles, we saw deer, we saw the cardinal flowers. It was a fabulous, fabulous trip with these guys.
Okay, awesome. Now, I'm assuming it would have been rather difficult to bring the canoe in today. I don't know if that would have been,
especially since it's 28 feet long.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have fit through the front door. But you brought the next best thing, I guess, which are the paddles that you use to power the canoe. Could you just sort of describe how those are made? Are those homemade, or where do those come from?
Yeah, we make all our own paddles. The steerman or the gouvernail in the back would have a tall one. It'd be about 6 foot, like this one. Then the front, the Avant, which is JeanPaul here, or Jerry, he would have one that was almost the same size. And then the Malo, or the people in the middle, theirs would be shorter. And on mine, I carved in a 1600s map of the rivers, and we use it for, again, educational. You can talk about the Wisconsin and along the lake shore to Green Bay, but when you point to it and show them exactly where it is, and they went down to the Mississippi and then wintered in the tributaries off the Mississippi, it's just a good visual that kids, we do a lot of elementary kids, and it keeps their attention.
Yes. Yeah.
And then on the other side, I just got all the Great Lakes.
Great.
And my job is called the Avant. I'm in the front. I not only watch for hazards in the water that we have to be careful to paddle around, but then also to watch out for ambush spots. There were a lot of piracy here in Wisconsin since the furs were outstandingly worth a huge amount of money. Every boatload was worth about $100,000 back then. So piracy was always something that we would have to be very careful with.
Now, Glenn, on your paddle, I know you have all the markings of the tributaries and the trails. Was that something that people back then did? Did they mark kind of where they've been, where they were going to remember, I guess, as a mapping system, or was there anything like that back then?
Yeah, you would personalize your own tools. That was how you made your money. That's how you lived. So you would personalize it. That's a little pretty in depth on my.
Yeah, I don't imagine it looking quite like that if they did something like that.
Now they would paddle those 40, 50 paddles per minute, about every 2 hours, a pipe or a pause. Well, as they kept doing that kind of became a standard unit of measurement. So their maps did get a little more accurate as time went on.
In fact, as early as 16, 18, and 19, the French were starting to map the southern shoreline of Lake Superior and also the upper part of Lake Michigan. So that was very early. That was before Plymouth Rock, in fact. So the French were very gifted map makers.
I see Bob is already excited to get his artifact.
I think it's Bob's turn.
We're getting close, Bob. Hold tight. We're getting close to you. You mentioned you guys really embody what it was like to experience traveling hundreds of years ago back on these waterways. Now, you guys sort of embody kind of a character. I don't want to say it maybe a character, but just like a person, what it was like. You guys have names and everything. If you could sort of let our listeners know, kind of give a preview of what your names are, kind of what the characters you kind of embody on these Voyageur canoes.
Well, I'm Jacques Largelet, and he was one of the voyageurs that went with Father Marquette and Louis Julier. Louis' brother was Aidan, and he had canoed with Jacques quite a bit. And his nickname was called the Beaver. He was a good paddler. So that's the person I chose.
And I chose JeanPaul Parquette. In fact, if you go to Portage today, you can go to Parquette Park. And Pierre Parquette was a very important figure at Portage. He helped transport the various materials, cargo materials from the Fox River to the Wisconsin back to the Fox. And he grew in great strength. In fact, he was considered the strongest man in all of Wisconsin, where he could demonstrate lifting a whole horse up in the air.
Really?
He would crawl underneath the horse and wrap his arms around the back legs and proceed to lift the whole horse up. And this is documented proof in various newspaper reporters at the time. So I portrayed the parquette family, which was very important here in Wisconsin.
If you're just tuning in with us today, we have several guests in to talk about an upcoming event, the Horicon Marsh Archaeological Festival. That's October 13th and 14th. We have the organizer, Julie Fleming, Glenn Gorsuch, and Jerry Disterhaft, who are with the Voyager Canoes, and Bob Krieger, who is in charge of the artifacts. We will get to Bob here coming up in our second segment of Community Comment.
Hey Mom, hey Dad, caregivers, everyone. I have something important to tell you. You are your child's #1 brain builder. You see, a baby's brain starts learning right at birth. By kindergarten, 90% of the brain development has already happened. This means you are the single most important person in helping your child's brain grow. You are your child's #1 brain builder. Visit talkreadplaywi.com. Download the free app and start brain building today.
Congratulations to Marquezan for winning the first ever Daily Dodge High School football poll, brought to you by Jimmy John's of Beaver Dam. Thanks to everyone who participated and cast nearly 12,000 votes. Tune in Friday, October 12th on 95.3 WXRO as Marquezan travels to Partyville to wrap up their regular season. Congratulations, Marquezan, from DailyDodge.com and Jimmy John's of Beaver Dam.
Plan your next getaway with the ease and comfort Lemurs Tour and Travel provides. Sit back and relax with luxury coach tours all over the United States. Check out their scheduled trips at LemursTour.com.
Passenger professional Lemurs.
Hi, on behalf of the American Red Cross, this is Ed Shellen of Columbus. Have you heard the saying, pay it forward? It's when the beneficiary of a good deed repays it to others instead of to the original benefactor. What does this mean to you? Well, everyone hearing my voice has received the gift of life. We may not be able to repay the one who gave life to us, but we can pass it on, and in a very caring way. On Tuesday, October 23rd, the American Red Cross is holding its blood drive at Faith Lutheran Church on Faith Drive in Columbus from 11:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. By donating a pint of blood, you can help save up to 3 lives. That's truly paying it forward. Again, that's Tuesday, October 23rd from 11:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. at Faith Lutheran Church in Columbus. For more information or to complete a rapid pass to speed up the donation process, go online to redcrossblood.org. That's redcrossblood.org. Be a good neighbor. Give the gift of life. Thank you.
Tired of the same old fantasy leagues year after year? Don't have time to check stats and change rosters every single day? Introducing a brand new, easy-to-play fantasy game. Daily Dodge Fantasy. Simply log on to dailydodge.com and click on the Fantasy tab. Pick the teams you think will win each week, and you're in. It's just that simple. Go head-to-head against other local fans for a chance to win great prizes. Each week, the top prognosticator will win a $25 gift certificate to Verizon Wireless Zone of Beaver Dam and West Bend. Plus, the top scorer at the end of the football season will win a pair of wireless headphones from Verizon Wireless Zone. Log on now to get registered and make your picks. Just go to dailydodge.com and click on Fantasy. It's Daily Dodge Fantasy, brought to you by Verizon Wireless Zone of Beaver Dam.
Beaver Dam Community Hospital's urgent care is now open 24 hours a day. That means your family can get the care you need, whenever you need it. Call 920-887-7181 or visit bdch.com/emergency-services for more information.
Hi, this is Brenda Murphy, host of the ID Exchange on AM 1430 WBEV, inviting you to the 2018 Women's Expo, Thursday, October 18th at Nancy's Notions Event Warehouse. Our theme is Be Grateful, Give Thanks. I'll have Thanksgiving hostess ideas and special holiday recipes provided by my teammates. Stop by to say hello to me and to Leslie Young of WXRO 95.3 FM at the Dodge County Women's Expo, October 18th, 3 to 7 p.m., because an attitude of gratitude brings great things.
105 from AM 1430 WBEV, streaming online at dailydodge.com. Time for more of today's community comment. Here again is your host, Kevin Haugen.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome back into Community Comment. Our guests today on the program are in to talk about the Horicon Marsh Archaeological Festival. We have Julie Fleming, Glenn Gorsuch, Jerry Disterhaft, who, if you were tuning in with us on the last segment, we're talking about the Voyager canoes. On this segment, you probably heard them all rustling and getting ready. Bob Krieger in to talk about the artifacts that will be on display during the event that is this coming weekend, October 13th and 14th, at the Horicon Marsh Education and Visitor Center. That's located between Horicon and Mayville on Highway 28. But Bob, without further ado, if you could just sort of run down, you got a lot of stuff here, though. You brought in a big box full of displays and artifacts. Just sort of run down with us and kind of what you brought here to show.
You got an hour?
We do. As long as we're out of here before the night.
Correct. What I was showing here, what Julie's got here, is the Clovis hunter. These are the earliest points that are about 13,000 years old. Mm-hmm. Those were used for the mammoth and mastodon. Actually, we did have mammoths in Dodge County.
Really?
Yes. If you go to the Historical Society over at the Williamsburg Library, you'll look in the display case. There's also bones that were found in the Beaver Dam area. Bone and also the molar, which I have in my collection. Right. But these are very high sought after by collectors, in the archaeology standpoint. These I found over at the Baraboo Archaeology Show in June. We with no cash involved, strictly trade. We do like Native American trade, stone for stone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's traditional. That's how we do it. But this one here I found at a flea market. One of my friends found that at a flea market. He is a collector, and he liked crystals and rocks. So I trade him amethyst crystals from Brazil for this Clovis point right there. These range anywhere from several $100 up to $1,000 a piece.
Really?
In a range.
Wow.
They're pretty sought after. The Clovis points have flutes right down the center. That's how you distinguish the Clovis points. And here also there's a little scenario. This is part of a mammoth molar. Part of it did break off, and I had to put it in the case to show what they were used for. He lost part of his tooth also.
So what year, or what time frame are we sort of?
These are paleo. Paleo runs between 40,000 and 12,000 years ago. BP signifies before present.
Okay.
BP in archaeology is terminology. Then you got late paleo, transition paleo, early archaic, middle archaic, late archaic, midland, woodland, and Mississippi. Most of these you see in here are all from all those cultures. Mm-hmm. Anywhere from 40,000 years old to 400 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what these all depicted. So we'll get to the next case out, Julie. And we'll go from there.
Great, awesome. So those are the Clovis points. Now you got several different displays here up
That's
next.
correct.
These are a little bit now. If people can't see this now, but they'll be able to see these later. Clovis are a little bit smaller. The ones you're going to show us next
they
are a little
range
larger.
anywhere from 1 to 3, 4 inches long.
Gotcha.
That's about average size for a Clovis point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So these next ones though are a little bit longer.
Right. These are called the Adena points. They're basically spear and knives. Most of these are all knives up here. Everybody thinks, oh, it's a spear. Not necessarily. Mm-hmm. Remember, aerodynamics had a lot of play with this stuff here. So your spear points would probably be like this here, and like this here, Adena here. These are all knives. This particular one is called a beaver tail because of the significant shape of the top of the notch. And Adena are mostly, or agate base, are basically square across or rounded on top of each point. These are made of chalcedony points, like agate. You don't find them around. You find mostly on the eastern and central United States, in Missouri or Illinois culture. But most of these are from the Midwest culture. Could be Hopi culture, what have you. And the workmanship is superb. It ain't like our artifacts are up here. They're more crude by the early woodland period, whereas the Hopi culture are more craftsmanship is more superb and more designated as far as shape and quality of material used.
Bob, did they have certain tools that they use in order to shape these? Because you mentioned that as
yes,
time changes, they were able to get better at doing it. Did their tools then get better?
Yeah, use hammerstone and also deer antler.
Okay.
And they put them in your hand like this, and on your knee, and then you flake them out piece by piece. There's a step by it's called pressure flaking and percussion flaking. Pressure will be like the edge here, and the percussion maybe be in the middle here. And also you see a lot of little areas along here are called serrated. That means that it's better for a weapon. It'll also signify a cutting tool edge. Yeah, when it goes into the particular animal, it will do more damage versus maybe a straight edge. It's like a saw going into you, a saw blade. We'll get the next one.
And those were roughly the same time period?
These would be the late Paleo culture, Adena Point, or Agate Basin, we call them.
And we do have a flint napper coming to the event where a person can stand and actually watch him making.
So you got to see kind of firsthand how a person would go about, and they use kind of the same tools and techniques that was implemented all these years ago.
These are much bigger pieces. I just lately acquired this one at a gun show. This guy right here. This was found in the Peace River in Florida. One of my friends, we did some horse trading at the gun show. My wife says, "Geez, come home with an artifact, not a gun." I only got one gun. That's all I need. Well, anyway, you see the nature of the color of these rocks here. The stone that you got into it are beautiful. Most of these are like white chert, pink chert. You got this here, a mixture of everything. Could be jasper and other material that was made in these rocks here. They would be called like a side notch point, whereas this is called a Thebes point because of the distinction of the deep notch, wide base on there like this here. This is called an Osceola point because of the nature of the curvature on top of the notch, and also the type of arrow and the side notches versus side notch versus. See, I don't have one here. Well, like this here, you can see the different kind of notches here. This is also a knife right here. This is also a knife. You think that's got to be a spear point, but it's not. These are all mostly all knives here. This guy was found down by the river by Prairie du Chien area. Now you see the serration on there. That's a fine workmanship. This is a quality museum piece right here. People say at their show, they'll say, "What's it worth? How much you want to pay for it?" See, but it's not about what it's worth. It's about history.
Now, how did they go about attaching these?
They use reed, like a reed off in the marshes. Reeds.
Okay. Right.
I should about one line. I do have an example, but they also use deer sinew, like these gentlemen know about, and they would attach that to the reed, and then deer sinew would crisscross the notch here to make it more stable for, for throwing or whatever.
Gotcha.
It gives them more strength.
Gotcha.
They would put the deer sinew in the sunlight, and it would, of course, shrink. Right? It would shrink. Turn it fine. There you go. Anyway, let's see what else is here.
Was there a specific stone that was best suited for this type of?
We find a lot of chert up here, and down if you go like Kentucky and Tennessee, it's called blue hornstone, which I have some examples of. It's a grayish material, but it's also beautiful. When you flake it, it gives a real shiny attitude to it. Versus the white shirt, But sometimes you'll find where they have like a fossil engraved in the stone, which is by accident. I've seen one with a fossil, like a shell, crustacean, was actually embossed in the stone, which is kind of unusual.
Wow.
It was like a snail, shell. Okay, next.
Yeah.
We're going right down the line here.
Now, are we kind of moving forward in time a little bit?
We're it'll be kind of a late in the middle area.
Okay.
These are called stun point or scrapers. They were remanufactured from an arrowhead that probably was broken in a process somewhere, maybe hunting, hit a rock or whatever. So they redesigned it and resharpened the edge for scraping small hides, like otter or fish scaler or whatever. Small animals, squirrels, whatever they could shoot, basically. You can see some are, they had the notch at one time, so all they do is retooled it. And some are very crude, some are triangular shaped, some are pedestal shaped like this one. You see this one was remanufactured. It was a nice arrowhead point one time, probably this long. So they just remanufactured it,
Yeah, looking at some you can't even tell. Like just over time, I'm assuming a lot of the shapes they sort of lost their shape. Is there ways that when an archaeologist digs up these sites, they're able to notify or pick out and say, "Hey, this was an arrowhead"? Is there any dead giveaways that sort of suggest that this is an artifact from hundreds of years ago?
Well, if you're in archaeology, you should be able to identify anything you dig up. Period.
Yes.
You got to be knowledgeable, listen, learn, and read on. That's how I interpret all this information. I've been doing this since. When I was probably a teeny bopper.
Okay.
Way back in the old days, can't tell you the years, But anyways,
couple of years ago,
precisely. I started off maybe like 10, 12 years old, and I go, being raised in the Horicon area where I'm born in Horicon, I would go in the marsh and, how do you find artifacts? You think like an Indian, right? You go by the river, an old creek, an escarpment, a hill, to overlook any enemy coming, whatever may be the case, and that's how you find them. I go at high noon, Reason why? Because high noon will cast no shadows. You can see the rock better. That stone will come out, because if you go into a cornfield, the stalk may be over an arrowhead, or partially over. The shadow will be over the arrowhead. So, I even found Indian head pennies in their sites. Now, how do you figure that out?
Bob, do you have any idea of how many of these have you located or found in your years of looking? And
that would be a good question. They're scattered.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Do you have a rough number that you can?
You mean that I found personally?
Yeah, you found personally.
Not a lot of them. Let's put it out.
Okay.
I not most of this. Most of these we bartered at archaeology shows.
Gotcha.
And I had a lot of rocks and minerals too, and I take all the crystals along. I knew guys that collect rocks and stuff. So we sit there like two kids in a candy shop. Here, this for that. So we go this for that. But anyway, move on. Them were the stun point scrapers. Okay, then. Hope not boring, yeah. It's an educational purpose.
Yeah, I know it's probably tough now. You probably won't be able to, if you check within at least 48 hours, the video should be up, and you'll be able to at least get a tease of what you'll see this coming weekend.
Yeah, these are bird points. These are all found in cache, means they're all together. These are basically like war points in here, because war points in battle would be tougher to get out than maybe these little rascals here. But you can see the size of these little things. I think those are mostly for jewelry.
Okay.
But not for killing. These are probably like Atlatl culture right here. Very flat across, very contoured, very serrated. You can see all the, and look at the squareness right here. I mean, how do you do that? There's no way in this earth could actually outperform something like that.
Right. And not by hand.
Oh yeah, definitely. But
some of these are extremely small. I mean, how long are people looking to find these, and how rare is it to come across something that
you'd have to have an eagle eye.
Yeah.
And I took my son, Brian, out on the field, and he had the advantage because he was short and small at the time. So he was closer to the ground than I was, being tall like a Yeti, Where's that? I found a scraper. I walked right over it, And he found them all. It's unbelievable. I'll show you these drills here. Now, we were talking about, these gentlemen talking about how they drilled, These are drills.
Yep.
That were used for making your clothing, Native American clothing back then. This is made of that blue hornstone I was telling you about before. That's the color of the rock. Come out from Tennessee, Kentucky area. Whereas these are more generally from around this area up here in the Wisconsin, Illinois culture. But if you notice this drill up top here, it signifies like a goose, like you see on an effigy mound. Effigy mounds are like this. You'll find goose effigy mounds.
Yeah, it's almost pointed like a scraper.
And here's one they call it. This is called a graver. These are gravers here for making smaller holes, into the leather or whatever to use at the time, and also maybe for starting probably fires. This is black chiocton. This comes from up in Wisconsin. Black chiocton. This is the quartz. Quartz is really hard to flake though, because it doesn't show much workmanship in it. It's very globular looking. It doesn't have no uniformity to it, whereas these have more uniformity. On there. So we'll move right along. Got some more here, and then otherwise we'll run out of time.
You'd spend all day, I'm assuming, talking about these.
But I'll get to the big guys here. There's some big boys here. These are blades, also nice, in here. This is called a, right here, this guy here was from Lake Winnebago. It was using, it was fired, to make it, for better flicking. They fire these babies too, as well, and for manufacturing for purposes.
No, Bob, I'm looking at some of these. I mean, some of these are rather pretty and gorgeous looking. Now, back in the day, did they ever look out rocks or stones for of an appeal, of a more aesthetic appeal? Was that ever a thought going in their minds when they were carving and making these stones?
Yeah, Native Americans were nomadic people. They didn't stay from place to place. They would trade rocks for rocks. Okay. And they'll bring maybe a pouch like this gentleman's one here, and they'll show, hey, I got some obsidian. Well, he came from out west, and he ended up in Wisconsin. That's how it works. But this here we call Snyder's Point because of the nature of the shape of the point. And another Snyder's Point here, and somewhere like this is called a Radis Point because of the nature of the point and the color and the shape of the notch. Dovetail, which is this one right here, dovetail, like a dovetail. That's made of white pink shirt. And this one here has got like a horse eye. You see that inscription? Looks like a horse running. On the stone. Pretty pretty.
Now, I do have word that we do have a caller who called in with a question, so we'll go to the phone line and welcome to Community Comment.
Yeah, a couple quick questions, and I'll hang up, listen for the answer. The first one, for native Wisconsin Indians, well, first of all, what were the main tribes in this part, like in Dodge County? And second of all, to that question, if you were to find points, whether arrow points, scrapers, axes, knives, whatever, would they generally be made of flint and be of brown color rather than white or black stone? I mean, what color would the points be if you're looking down at the ground? And then way off of that is on the mammoths, mastodons, did they die off kind of in the Ice Age 10,000 years ago? And how deep would their remains be under the earth? So if you were looking at like a river, eroding a riverbed, how deep down would you actually be looking before you could find those type of remains? Sorry that the questions are so way off target, but I'm going to hang up and listen for an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you for your call.
Yeah. First of all, we have a lot of one of your questions about the stones we find mostly are chert and some of the fossilized material we find in Dodge County. The second one was we have a lot of flint up in this area too. We find, and not too much of the other material I talked about, like the blue hornstone and the other material I have on display here. Most of those are from out of state. Like I said before, the Native American people were very nomadic people, and they would do trading, a lot of trading stuff, as well as fur trading, like these two gentlemen were talked about before. And the other thing about the woolly mammoth, they were native in Dodge County. It wasn't much as the Ice Age that drove them to extinction. It was the hunters that drove them because they were easy kill. That's what drove most of them from extinction. Easy kill. But once you threw that point into that big guy, you better make sure that you have good running material. If he's going to come after you, you can get him mad. And a lot of times the Native American people would also run these big guys off a cliff. In order to do that, you would chase them, because it would scare the herd, whatever, or one or two elephants, or whatever may be the case. They would eventually run them off the cliff, and then, of course, we know what's going to happen. They're going to break their limbs or their bone or break their neck, so then you just come over and finish them off with your tools of the trade. So that's how, but there was a mammoth that was found here in Beaver Dam area a few years back. I guess a farmer must have hit him with a plow or something like that, but I think the remains are at the William Street Library on display with Kurt Sampson. He's the curator over there, so you might want to talk to him about that, make double checking. And he's very educational, much more educational than I am. I don't have no degree in archaeology, but I do learn and read about things of this nature. So hopefully that'll answer some of your questions.
Now, as we sort of move on here, I know you got maybe one or two more displays here left to go through. Just kind of a follow-up question: were woolly mammoths primarily hunted for their meat, their fur, their tusks? What was
all the above?
All the above.
They didn't waste nothing.
They used every part.
Yep. Every part was universal. They even used the hides for over their hogans or their huts, as well as wearing to protect it from the winter months. The bone was used for making tools. The skin, of course, was for their food supplement. And they had to get it while they can get it, because you never know what kind of winter you're going to have coming up down the road. It could be harsh or it could be mild. But you had to do what you had to do to survive. And hopefully they had a big storage unit for food. But as we go on, I got some more artifacts here to show you. As Julie listed this case up, there's a black one down here. That's called obsidian. That comes from out Oregon, Washington area. That's from your volcanic glass. The obsidian was probably used as one of your first surgical tools. That's where it came from.
Is it just because you're able to get it to such a fine point? Is that
but also if you took a piece of obsidian and you knocked a big piece off with a hammer or something, you feel that edge. It's razor sharp.
I think they still use that.
They still use it in surgery. Yeah. That's right.
In fact,
they do.
It keeps the edge better than steel.
That's correct.
Really?
Yeah, and if you break, just break another piece off.
I had a friend ask, are they going to use an obsidian scalpel? He goes, no, that's too sharp. We want to leave more of a jagged edge for it to come together.
Yeah. But there's different types of points up here, and this one's called Knife River Flint. Comes out of North Dakota's. It's agate. You can put up to the light. It's translucent in color. Knife River Flint is pretty hard to find, But this guy here is also Cohican culture from the Ohio area. How it got up here, I don't know. Well, they said they did a lot of trading. They could have been maybe part of a jewelry. I don't know. I don't know how that happens. And this one here has got that fossil to it on this here point. It's like a coral. Fossilized coral. You can see little beads here. Now, if you go to the rock quarries, you'll see some of the material like that. If you're a geologist or whatever in there. This particular piece in the corner is called a Pickwick point because of the notches come out to the side. Looks like barbs. So every point has a name to it, just like a car. Everything has a name to it. If I told you all these names, I need another 4 hours.
Don't have that time.
I know.
We got all the time this weekend. If people want to learn more, they can come to the event.
We're getting under the wire now. This one here is this collection came out of Racine. A gentleman came to one of our shows and he seen some points that I wanted. So we sat for 6 hours trading my points just for what you see here. 6 hours. My wife said we need supper. But this on the bottom is called glacial slate. That's an amulet that you wore around your neck. It was a decorative jewelry piece, and the holes have to be drilled at a 45-degree angle to make sure that it's real authentic. Because sometimes you get forgeries out there. You got to be careful about it because they'll put in a hole and think, this ain't right. And if you're good at spotting this material, you'll know what's fake and what's not. Be careful. There's a lot of bad stuff out there. Definitely. This guy up here on the corner up here is called that's like a sinker for net weight. It's made of hematite stone. It's a real shiny stone by when you polish it.
Looking at it now, it's just super smooth.
It is smooth. Yeah, it's a lot of workmanship in that little valve. And then if you look on top, Kevin, you'll see a small notch for putting a rope, the string around it. Okay. So, it's called net weight. Okay. Some of I have labeled here and what they are. I don't have my glasses. I can't read it. But anyway. This guy came out of West Virginia. One of my friends came up, and we traded some outboard motors for stuff, and he had some artifacts from his area. So I said, "Bring artifacts on, let's swap." So he come up with this little knife. It's flat as a pancake on both sides, And this guy down in the corner is an arrow sharpener, to make the perpendicular point. This guy in the corner, and you scrape it across until you can smooth it out, and then you can see the straight line, so you don't have a wobbly looking point. They were very engineering back then, Native American people back there, what they had. This guy, don't know what this guy's about. It's got barbs on it. Must have been basically probably his own design. Let's put it that way, this black one here. It's black chiocton. Again, it comes from Wisconsin. And this, again, here's a beaver tail. Again, beaver tail by the shape. This is a Chalcedonian knife. Very rare knife. That's what took up the whole head of the trade because it's how to get that baby out of his hands. It took a while. It took a while. But we got one more to go, Kevin.
All right.
Then we'll. Okay, here we go. I say the good for last.
Best for last.
Yes, sir. Turn my volume up. Okay. These okay. These don't shift. They got them nailed down.
All right.
These are called turkey tails up here. This particular one on top, the left, right in the corner is a bullseye turkey tail. You see a little notch on top. It looks like an edge of another point. That's typical turkey tail attitude. This is made pink white shirt. This is a black chiocton, again from Wisconsin, way up north. This guy I haven't identified yet. That could be some different kind of rock which I haven't identified yet. But these are very rare pieces, I went to the Beaver Archaeology show one day, and I had this case along, and I showed some of the guys down there. And this one guy says, "How much you want for that case?" He followed me all around the whole area. "Hey, how much you want for that?" And I walked away. He said, "How much you want for that?" I said, "It ain't for sale." I says, "It's sentimental value. It's historical. You get more knowledge out of the showing the people what they are than the money you got. The money's gone, but knowledge is not. They can rob you, but they can't steal your knowledge. That's my theory, okay? And these are pretty rare. They could run anywhere from $700 all the way up to several $1,000s a piece. The hierarchy of the Native American people would carry the particular pieces here, and when they passed on, they would crack them in half and put them in their burial place.
Did that have significant meaning for
basic ceremonial?
Okay.
Yeah.
But they like so specific to each individual person. So if everybody when they passed on, they had their own. They had their own piece like this.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, their own style because these are very rare. And I went to the show that time, Beaver, and there was not one in the whole building that had any of these.
Yeah.
They're just hard to find, But,
Could you explain as to why some of them? Is it just because they passed on in the wild and
traditional?
Okay.
It was a tradition, ceremony tradition.
So because some of these aren't obviously some of them aren't broken. So were these just not?
They lucked out.
Lucked out, I guess. Okay.
They lucked out basically, yeah, and they were somehow they survived, But there's a few out there, but they're native from out east into the Midwest area of the United States. That's where you find under this piece here, but. How that Cheyenne got down, way down in Indiana or Missouri area is beyond me. It just somehow made a flotilla down the area. But I put a big turkey tail in because it describes a turkey. I got that.
You got a tail in there to sort of to. Is that what that is? That what?
That just a turkey tail.
Gotcha. Just sort of make
it relates to what it is in here.
Gotcha.
I got that at the archaeology show last year. I borrowed it. But in the same scenario. A book called Overstreet. It's called a book on Indian artifacts, and what it does, it depicts all the style and all the arrowheads in there. It's a big, like a Bible. I got several of them. There's like 14 editions. This is number 3. And they're getting thicker and thicker.
It's crazy to think. You think just for one specific style of instrument that there's so many different ways that they made it that requires 14 different editions of a book of pretty decent size that they need to categorize all these and catalog them all.
Well, it's interesting because what they do in this particular book, Kevin, in the front it'll tell you the types they are, and what to look for in each point. Then it'll tell you geographic location about approximately where they're all located. It's like a aviation handbook, if you will. You got to study all the regulations, But in here, again, it'll show some big pieces like this, tell you a price on the bottom, but it's only a guide now. It's only a guide. It doesn't take, this is what it's worth. It's what you would be willing to pay for it or trade for it. That's how it works. And some people think because it's old, it's worth a lot of money. It's not. It's the type it is in material, on there.
I think the interesting thing here, too, is that the Native Americans were here in our area very early on. And years ago, they did an archaeological dig up at Fox Lake out there on Elmwood Island, because Elmwood Island had never been cultivated, and they were putting in the sewer. And to do that around Fox Lake, they needed to do an archaeological dig. They went down 10 levels, and they found a beautiful piece. And they said it was from 10,000 B.C.
Wow.
One last note, I gave each of you guys a buffalo nickel, which you see right here. In 1964, the Waupun State Bank had their 125th anniversary, and Chief John Bigtree, as I can recall, was there. If I can remember my math or my mind. Anyway, he was 98 years old back then. Wow. He sat for the coinage in 1913. And that was it. And a guy named by Fraser designed the buffalo nickel after him. Well, you go up to a coin collector and said, "What's the name of the buffalo?" Nobody knew. I said, "You're a coin collector, but you don't know what the name of the buffalo was." Black diamond. I says, "Well, your wife probably has one, and she has jewelry." So that's my first indication. What would be her name? She says, "Diamond." You're right, black diamond. And I got his paper at home in my collection, which I bring to the show in September.
In a week.
In a week.
That's the weekend, on this weekend.
On the weekend, yeah. I better watch it. Anyway, I'll have the display there of the Chief John Bigtree picture that the bank gave out, And he also starred in several John Wayne movies, too. Oh, wow. One was 1948, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. He's in there toward the end of the movie. He liked his liquor. I guess I call it. But it's Hollywood.
Right.
Hollywood, strictly Hollywood. But a very interesting man. And I was 14 years old at the time, 1964. So you can, been a few moons ago,
Yep. And I got one of those nickels in my necklace.
Yep, and earrings.
Somebody cut him out, actually, and I wore them today because I knew he knew the story, and I wore the jewelry.
There you go.
Awesome, fantastic.
So Kevin, you each got a buffalo nickel, Kevin.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's a souvenir for you.
Oh, thank you, Bob.
It's a
So
good piece.
that was just a small sample of what a visitor can expect to learn and see at the Horicon Marsh Archaeological Festival coming up this weekend, October 13th and 14th at the Horicon Marsh Education and Visitor Center. We're going to do a final round robin here. Bob, since you are still in kind of wrapping up here, talking about all these great artifacts, just sort of give our listeners a final comment about why you want them to come out this weekend and learn about all these incredible things that you just talked about with us today.
I advise you to bring your children along. It's an educational situation. Bring them along, adults as well. We got a lot of activities going up there, like Julie said. We have a lot of exhibits there. We'll have a lot of exhibits with artifacts, and also, if people are interested, I would sit down and talk to them about each piece that we talked about today, and educate them, and also have some memorabilia to show them as well. I got some axes, or actually tomahawks, from the Cheyenne Warrior. They're contemporary pieces that would be on display also down there. And they're talking about a good day, I guess, Saturday. It would be nice weather-wise, too, which is good. It's good for us. And also Sunday, too, is good. So I got kind of the forecast right in my mind. But anyways, it's really interesting. You'll walk out with a knowledge of stuff. And when you go down in the bottom of the DNR, you'll see the window. You'll see the displays down there. You'll see a sign will say Indian Artifact Display, and it'll point an arrow to your left, which is a big room. Ours will be set up down there.
Right.
If anybody else is interested, other things about this, or wants to get started in collecting any kind of material, let me know. I'll be willing to answer all the questions, and I'll be giving away buffalo nickels too.
Oh, great!
Fantastic to all the kids.
Great, awesome. Glenn and Jerry, just what can visitors expect out of the Voyager canoes?
Oh, just bring the whole family. There's games up on the hill that the kids and adults can play. And again, it's new water for us. We've been part of the festival for a few years, and this year we're just excited to go down and be on the water. And we can fit 16 adults or 25 fifth graders. So whatever you got, bring them out, and we'll hire them on and get them on the water.
Great.
Well, in fact, I even offer a challenge if family or youth or adults come over, and they can challenge us to any question that we may not know of.
Stump the chumps.
Yes, or actually bring their family stories, which would be great. Maybe there could be some families in the fur trade era that would be very interesting.
And then, Julie, one more time, if you could just let our listeners know all the dates and times and everything important to know about the event coming up this weekend.
Great. It is the Horicon Marsh Archaeological Festival, sponsored by the Rock River Archaeological Society. It is Saturday and Sunday this coming weekend. Saturday it's 10 until 5, and Sunday 10 until 4. It's free admission, and a couple of things that we haven't mentioned that we will be having is the flags of 11 nations. The Native American nations will be on display. There will be face painting by a Native American young woman who is a beautiful artist. We will have the fire starting and corn grinding that the kids can try and do and whatever. And then for purchase, along with the food from our chef, there will be fry bread. So it's a wonderful weekend, and it's a great thing to do with the kids. And if it's a little cool, a lot of activities will be inside, some activities outside. Wear a light jacket and just come and enjoy either day.
Right, and then if people wanted to learn more, could they reach us out to you? Is there a Facebook page, email, contact information that if they wanted to ask more questions?
Yeah, if you want to ask questions, you can call me, and that number I would call the 920-210-7865, because I'll have that on me all the rest of the week. And then if you want to email me a question, it's my name, Julie Fleming, and Fleming has 2 M's in it, so it's JuliefLemming @yahoo.com.
Great. Awesome. Fantastic. And again, I know we went through a lot of exciting and cool artifacts over the air. Unfortunately, you can't see that over the air, but we did have a video recording the whole thing. So hopefully with the next 48 hours, that video will be up on the video tab at dailydodge.com if you wanted to see all the cool things and get a little taste of what you can expect to see this weekend again at the Horicon Marsh Archaeological Festival, October 13th and 14th. That Saturday. It starts at 10 a.m., goes until 5 p.m., and Sunday from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m., and there is free admission. You have to pay for food, but you get in, no costs whatsoever.
Right.
I want to again thank our guests today, Bob Krieger, Jerry Disterhaft, Glenn Gorsuch, and Julie Fleming for coming in today. Thank you guys for coming in.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And that is going to do it for today's Community Comment.